Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Thank you for joining me. My name is Devin De La Garza, reporting from DNN, also known as De La Garza News Network. Today, our news analysis will cover child labor laws in India. India is known for their loose child labor laws that allow for children of varying ages to work in extreme and harsh environments. Over the years, India has received backlash and criticism from national and international organizations such as the International Labour Rights Fund, Save the Children, Child Labor Coalition, and South Asian Coalition on Child Servitude. Due to this criticism, India amended child labor laws that went into effect July 2016 in an effort to reduce conditions and to keep children in school. Part of our investigation will be reviewing these newly implemented child labor laws and how child labor has been reported domestically and internationally. We invite you to join us in analyzing these news publications from various media channels while applying mass media theories and concepts. According to the International Labour Organization, child labor is defined as work performed by a child that is likely to interfere with his or her education or to be harmful to their health or physical, mental, spiritual, moral, or social development. Throughout the Industrial Revolution, many countries began recognizing the issue of child labor and adopted laws and policies to eliminate it. After many international organizations, news outlets, and groups berated India, the Child and Adolescent Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986 was implemented as a way to discourage the employing of children. This act gave guidelines that was composed of 3 phases. The first phase defined what an adolescent was. The second phase listed 83 occupations and conditions that children were prohibited to work in. And the last phase outlined conditions in which children may work in positions that were not listed in the prohibited section. On July 29, 2016, the Rajya Sabha passed a bill which amended the Child Labor Act. In this act, differences such as age, conditions, and hours allowed to work were amended to help with the high number of children working under harsh conditions in India. These new amendments outlawed all child labor for adolescents under the age of 14. These revisions also prohibited adolescents between the ages of 14 and 18 from working in hazardous conditions. However, a clause inputted in the amendment was found as a loophole for many of the company owners that use children as their workforce. The clause states that children under the age of 14 are not allowed to work unless they are working for a family business. The passage loosely states what is considered family without any regulations to ensure that children and business owners are actually related. In addition, the Act previously listed 83 different jobs that were deemed hazardous and has now been reduced to 4 generalized industries. With my research, we are seeking to explain how the media in India, America, and in the UK report on international topics exclusively, in this case, the new child labor laws in India. We will use several theories to better understand the reporting on the amendments made and how it affects audiences. There will be 4 communication concepts and theories that will be used to help explain in detail our research findings. These are selective exposure, which is the tendency to favor information that reinforces pre-existing views. Second, priming, which is the amount of time and space the media devotes to an issue to make an audience receptive and aware. Next, gatekeeping theory, which states that if international stories that are least popular will get tossed aside compared to universally common news, for example, terror issues. Lastly, agenda setting, which describes the ability of the news media to influence the public agenda. This theory is based around the concept that news outlets will continue to cover a topic that focuses on issues and how people should think about it. In my analysis, I will show how the international media is more informative and descriptive when it comes to reporting. As we present our analysis, keep the following questions in mind. How are child labor laws in India portrayed in the media? What is the relation between news stories in different countries and theories mentioned? How does the media influence public perception? Our research thoroughly analyzed coverage of child labor laws between international media outlets headquartered in India, the United States of America, and within the United Kingdom. We investigated 10 stories and videos, 2 generating from the United States of America, 4 from India, and 4 from the United Kingdom. The American media and international media coverage on India's child labor laws is our basis for identifying, relating, and interpreting communication theories to explain the role of media in society. After general research and analyzing several articles compared to international news outlets, the U.S. did not go into much depth with the child labor laws and had news articles that weren't as frequent or up to date on the issue. These findings directly correlate with the gatekeeping theory. Gatekeeping theory, as aforementioned, states that some news media that aren't as important get put aside where there are more important international news coverage, which explains why news outlets such as CNN and Fox News had no coverage on the issue, while the Washington Post and The Nation had very little general coverage. Now we will be moving on to international media from India and the UK. From the United Kingdom, coverage between The Guardian and BBC on the issue of the child labor laws in India, agenda setting and selective exposure is prominent. All of the articles strictly criticize the loophole that could in actuality increase child labor. Through the articles, selective exposure is shown through the information which is shared. The news articles covered the amendments that could negatively affect efforts to reduce child labor, but hardly mention the rise of fees and other ways the amendments have made the law more restrictive. With little objectivity and emphasis on the possible detriments the amendments may have, the articles selectively exposed information that already aligned with the views that child labor is unacceptable, and also set the agenda that government officials in India were careless in passing the changes and were not actually advocating for children's rights. Like the UK, selective exposure along with priming are theories that are related to news coverage between the Times of India and the Indian Express. Selective exposure was present in all articles, alternating sides. A couple of the news articles selectively showed the positive aspects of the new reform, while the other articles showed the negative impacts the new amendments could have. The news coverage in India also went more into depth, with reporters surveying child laborers and covering real-life impacts of child labor. There was more frequency in reporting the laws, how they could affect child labor, and how it was already affecting child labor. This goes along with the priming theory because reporters are constantly giving the time and attention to this issue to make others receptive and aware. In conclusion, child labor laws are hardly portrayed in the U.S. while it is more covered in the United Kingdom and India. The coverage from UK media outlets showed a relation to selective exposure theory and agenda setting theory. Media in the UK influenced the public perception with the negativity of the amendments and how it could make child labor worse. Selective exposure and priming were the main theories that related to the news coverage in India and influenced public perception by making their audience aware and receptive of both negative and positive sides of the issue through priming. And that is the end of the analysis. Thank you for joining us here at DNN. Have a good evening. Thank you.